It's hard to believe, but we are now officially in the last 3 months of 2024. Yes, that's right. There have been some great releases this year, but the games aren't stopping anytime soon. And so here are 7 games that I'm really excited to play that are still to come this year. So the first entry on this list is an expansion rather than a game, but I'm still including it because I think it will be quite a significant release, and that is Vessel of Hatred, the first expansion for Diablo 4. Now, Diablo 4 had a bit of a rocky start, but has steadily been improving since release. I myself have sunk quite a lot of time into this game, especially the most recent season. I think that was season 5. So I'm pretty excited to get my hands on this DLC, and actually I've pre-ordered it, which is quite rare for me these days. I have to be really looking forward to something to pre-order it. I'm excited for the continuation of the story, discovering what's happening with Neyrelle and Mephisto, and of course I'm really excited to try out a brand new class. Vessel of Hatred brings with it the Spirit-born class, which looks very mobile and uses the power of 4 Spirit Guardians, and so it comes across as quite versatile from the trailers. It's supposed to be quite a complex class as well, so it'll be nice to have that sort of extra challenge and reward for pulling it off. And one of the things that I enjoy a lot about the Diablo games is creating and messing around with different builds, swapping out abilities, changing where you've allocated your skill points and seeing if you get stronger from it. And so being able to do that with a new class is going to be great fun. There's also going to be a new jungle region to explore and some additional mechanics, so they're bringing back mercenaries. There's new endgame activities like the Dark Citadel, which seems to be this big PvE co-op endgame activity, and at the same time the expansion releases, there will be the start of a brand new season in Diablo 4 that all players can get involved with, whether you've bought the DLC or not. Now, I've been playing Diablo since the release of number 3, not constantly, but often sort of jumping in and out for a couple of seasons here and there if I'm interested in them. I actually nearly fully completed the seasonal objectives for season 5 in Diablo 4, but now I've left it alone for a couple of weeks, and so I'm very excited to dive back into Diablo very soon. I've said this before on the channel, but one thing that I like a lot with Diablo games is that they are always evolving, usually in a good way. They usually bring out new things every season that sort of build on what was there before, and so I'm often dipping in and out of this game. Even if the expansion releases and I'm not so keen on the new story, or maybe I don't like the new mechanics for this season, I won't be too worried because there's going to be, multiple years worth of new seasons with new things being added, new mechanics, new quests, that kind of thing. Although I am quietly confident that if you're into Diablo, then you'll have a good time with this expansion when Vessel of Hatred releases on October 8th. Okay, we're on to full games now, and this time we're talking about Metaphor ReFantazio. If you've not heard about this game, it's got a bit of a weird title, so maybe you wouldn't have done, but if you've not heard about it, it's been created by Atlus, the makers of the Persona and Shin Megami Tensei series. And a lot of the team working on this new game have worked on some of the best Persona games that we've had. It's a great lineup of developers. They come from Personas 3, 4 and 5, and that gives a lot of fans hope for an incredible new RPG. Where Persona is like this modern day setting, Metaphor ReFantazio is Atlus's take on a fantasy world, still with a lot of mystery and intrigue like in Persona, but it's focusing around a race to crown a new king. Now, if you are a fan of Persona, then it seems like you can sort of go in expecting a very similar type of game. There is a little bit of a change to the combat system where they've added in a small real-time element to go along with the turn-based fighting. It seems like you can sort of bash smaller enemies before jumping into turn-based combat in order to take out the bigger ones. Other than that though, a lot in this game looks like it will be similar to those Persona games, which is absolutely fine for me. I really enjoyed Persona 5, and it's one of my biggest gaming regrets that I've never finished that game, but it was just so long. Maybe along with Metaphor I can make up for that. I have seen a few articles that are out there saying that this game may be just as long as Persona 5, so there's going to be a lot to dive into. One thing that I enjoyed a lot about in Persona is the art style, and that similar art style is in full force here in Metaphor. I think the trailers look gorgeous, gameplay and cutscenes also look great, and of course Atlus makes some of the most stylish menus that we've ever seen in games. So if they nail the story here, and there's no reason to suspect they won't, then I think we'll have a new hit on our hands with Metaphor ReFantazio, which releases on October the 11th. Next up is Super Mario Party Jamboree. Now, I was pretty surprised by the announcement for this game, and also I can't believe just how much is being packed into it. In this house, we're big fans of Mario Party, but one of the things that I've always wanted is more boards. I never really understood why Nintendo didn't do DLC boards for these games. I think that's the kind of thing that people would absolutely snap up. But that is less of a worry with Jamboree, as we've got 7 boards right from the start, 5 brand new ones and 2 returning boards from previous entries. I think that I'm most looking forward to the racetrack board and also the board that's set in a shopping mall. This game also comes with an absolutely huge range of minigames, and there's also a few new modes like the Coupathlon, which has 20 players competing minigames to progress a race around the board, and there's also a mode where you team up to take on a giant Bowser using cannons. It's fully online right away, which is good because some of the previous ones we had to wait quite a while to get online, and there's a mix of a standard control minigames, so using buttons and joysticks, alongside motion control minigames too, which is great. I really liked Mario Party Superstars, but I did sometimes miss those motion control minigames. It's always funny to see everybody really going at it with motion controls, trying to win, especially in head-to-heads. This is one that I might not pick up right away, but you can bet that it will come out as soon as we've got some people over. We always have a great time playing Mario Party games. They've just got that fun, silly feeling. It always gets people laughing at sort of the good and the bad, and usually ridiculous things that happen, like maybe the same player will get knocked backwards on the track 3 times in a row. I am kind of the reigning champ here. Those bonus stars often do go my way somehow, and you can bet I will be defending my title with this new entry. Super Mario Party Jamboree releases on October 17th. Now we're moving on to Dragon Age Veilguard. Now this one is interesting because Dragon Age Origins is one of my favorite ever RPGs. I love the world they created, how open the mechanics were, and although nowadays a lot of games have moved away from tactical combat like in Origins, I really enjoyed it at the time, and I spent a very long time with Origins. It means quite a lot to me. I then didn't really get on with Dragon Age 2, so I didn't get very far in it, but Inquisition, after trying it once and bouncing off it, I went back to it and I had a great time with it. And I'm actually been playing that one again on Steam Deck at the moment, dipping back in from time to time. However, it's been a very long time since we last had a Dragon Age game, and BioWare has undergone so much change in that time. It feels like essentially a new studio is working on this game. The initial trailer, which showed character models, it sparked a bit of outrage. It didn't seem very serious. But since then, I think that the follow-up footage has been pretty good. It sort of settled some fears about the gameplay. I am still a little unsure about the art style that they've picked for some of the character models, but the more I see of this game, the better I feel about it. Some of that combat that we've now seen, it did look a little boring at first, but it seems to me that the further you get into this game, the more it might open up. So in particular, I thought the footage of the dragon fight, it looked like a lot of fun, and it seems that the mage they used in that trailer has access to a lot more spells, whereas some of the original footage seemed like it was from the very start of the game when maybe you only had 1 or 2 abilities, and I think that is what made the combat look stale at first. I'm also really excited to get back into Thedas, and I'm especially excited to see some of those old characters again that we've played through multiple games with, so Varric, Solus, Liliana. Dragon Age Veilguard, it must have changed a lot along the way. It has been in development since 2015 after all, but really only in its current form for apparently the last 4 years. I am very much hoping for a return to the sort of grand RPGs that BioWare used to make. They were one of my favourite studios with the old Mass Effect and the old Dragon Age games, and so I've got my fingers crossed for something that can at least get close to living up to those games. Dragon Age Veilguard comes out on October 31st. Mario and Luigi Brothership is next. Now, I've not played a huge amount of the older Mario and Luigi games. I've dipped into a few of them here and there, but I've never finished one. I'm not like a long-time fan or anything like that, but I don't really think anybody expected another entry in the Mario and Luigi series, so I am looking forward to trying Brothership out. First of all, I really like the art style and the animations that they've picked for this game. Some of those combat animations where Mario and Luigi are bouncing around or they're whacking bad guys with hammers, I think they look really slick. The Mario and Luigi games are turn-based combat, but they also have button inputs that you can time to either do more damage to your enemies or mitigate damage from an enemy attack. So they are a little bit more involved combat-wise. They're a bit like Super Mario RPG if you've played that one. Some of the abilities I think look pretty awesome as well, especially the big fiery shell that Mario kicks, and does that give Mario Strikers vibes to anybody else? I also think that this new game has got the sort of charm and humour of a Mario and Luigi game, at least from my limited experience of the series in the past. There's funny moments you can see in the trailers, like Luigi landing face down on the ground, and some really interesting looking villains. I'm sure there are plenty of moments that'll make you laugh, and there will be great characters to get to know. I also think the music from the trailer was pretty funky. It actually reminded me a little bit of the music from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and funnily enough, I didn't like that music at first, but it sort of ended up growing on me the more I played that game, so you know, I quite enjoyed it in this trailer. Returning fans, I'm sure, will have a great time, but for a lot of people, this could be a brand new series for them when Mario and Luigi Brothership launches on November 7th. We've got another RPG now, and this one is Dragon Quest III, the HD 2D remake. Dragon Quest is another series that I like. I've played a lot of the games, but I've not really finished very many of them, and I would like to change that. I think the HD 2D art style is absolutely stunning. I thought it looked good when Octopath Traveler first revealed it the first time round. I think Octopath 2 looks even better, and I think the trailers for this remake in particular look incredible. I've been reading a few articles that say that while they are sticking quite closely to the original Dragon Quest III, there are still going to be some sort of modernizations and additions to the game that they try to make sure fit in with the feeling of the original game. So there are things apparently like, instead of just betting on the monster arena, you can actually take part in it yourself with a monster collecting edition. There are also options to increase battle speed, which I think will be really good for anybody trying to get into Dragon Quest who's maybe not a huge fan of turn-based combat. So the game shouldn't feel quite as old as if you were playing it originally. The only thing that I wish they also changed is during attack animations, you can't actually see your character. You can only see the enemies and the ability effects, and I just think that is a bit of a shame you don't get to see your character doing some kind of battle animation with the new art style. I think that would have been really cool. There are actually quite a lot of ways to play Dragon Quest III these days. There's a mobile port, the original was ported over to the Switch as well, but there's just something about this remake that sort of has a bit of extra charm and magic to it, and I am hankering for a good old school RPG to get sucked into again. Although now that I think about it, a lot of the games on this list are RPGs, but either way, I'm sure we'll have a great time when Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake releases on November 14th. Now, the final game in this list is something a little bit different. It's not very often that I talk about PC only games. I'm quite console focused on this channel, but I had to include a game called Supervive, as it would be pretty high up on this list, maybe, you know, in the top 1 or 2. Supervive is a top-down battle royale with a MOBA style of gameplay. It's similar to something like Battle Right, and this game seems like it would be an absolute ton of fun to play with a group of friends. I've mentioned before on the channel how I used to be really into League of Legends, and while I don't play very much anymore, I do still sometimes get that itch to fall really deep into a very skill-based game that I can sort of, you know, spend time getting good at, learning different champions, different mechanics, that kind of thing. And Supervive could be that next type of game for me. I've watched a lot of gameplay for this one because I've gotten pretty excited for it. There's very deep character mechanics, there's equipment to go on top, there's skill items, there's points of interest on the map. You can do things like revive your teammates if you play it right, and of course all of the different squads are slowly pushed together as the game goes on, and that sort of circle of the map becomes smaller and smaller. Some of the characters look like great fun. In particular, there's a clip I saw of a sniper who launched themselves backwards with a shot, allowing them to then get a better angle to aim at some of their enemies, and they take them out, and it just looks very skillful, very cool. There's also a tank character who has a grab but also has a knockdown ability where if you sort of catch someone jumping between platforms and you hit them with it, it sends them flying down into the abyss for an insta-kill. It feels like the type of game that brings about lots of both epic and hilarious moments when playing, and I can't wait to try it. I've sent the trailer over to my brother, who I used to play a lot of League with, and I'm basically just waiting for the day that it comes out now. One thing that the developers have done, which I think is very clever, is they've included clips from testers in the trailers and included their voice comms. Now, if you're cynical, then I suppose you might think it's a setup, but it sounds pretty genuine to me, and you can just hear how much fun they're having, which just adds another level of excitement for this game. Supervive moves into open beta in Q4 of this year. That's what they've said, Q4. So it could be any time really from October to December. It might even be out by the time you're watching this. So we've come to the end of the video. Those were 7 games I'm really looking forward to that are still coming out in 2024. I'd really love to hear what you think, so let me know down in the comments. Are there any other games that you're really looking forward to that I haven't included? I do have another bonus one, and that's the Horizon Zero Dawn remaster, mainly because I never played the game originally, and I think that the improvements to the facial animations look really good, and since it's only going to be a small fee to upgrade if you've got the base game, I'm not too upset about another remaster coming to PlayStation. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.